Hi guys, so this morning once I get back home after my run here, what I'm going to do is go out to Spring Social libraries. So I'm going to grab Spring Social Twitter and we're going to create a Spring Boot application and we're going to reference the Spring Social Twitter API. So that's actually going to in turn invoke the OAuth 2 service, and then it's going to actually start calling the Twitter API via Java code. So you can use this in your application if you need to programmatically access API, automating that and storing the tweets, querying tweets, querying hashtags, and of course if you're saving that stuff, make sure you do so legally. And I hope you enjoy this quick video. Thank you.
Hi folks, it's Philip Starrett here, and today what we're going to do is use Spring Social Twitter to enable us to connect our Java Spring application with Twitter's REST API. So Spring Social Twitter is an extension of Spring Social that enables us to connect our application with the Twitter REST API. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and create a new Spring Starter project. And I'm going to call this Twitter client. And we're going to be able to bring down our dependencies through the Spring Starter project. So I'm going to add a group here and a description. So click next. I'm going to bring down the web dependencies, as I'm actually going to create a RESTful service that I'm going to call locally, which will in turn go out and call the REST API for us. So I'm going to search Twitter in here, and as you can see we have Spring Social Twitter. I click that. I'm going to use Spring 1.4.0, and I'm going to go ahead, finish that, bring down the dependencies. So the first thing I'm going to do is delete the boilerplate code. And what I'm going to do now is actually go in and look at Spring Boot auto configure. And what I'm going to do is look for Spring Social. So inside here we have Spring Social. There it is there. And what we have is a Twitter properties and a Twitter auto configuration. So let's go in there and inspect that. So inside that we have, okay, we're conditional on properties, Spring Social Twitter. So now we know the property base. And yes, we have Twitter Connection Factory because we've included that in our POM. And what we want to do is go down and analyze these beans that will be created. So on our request scope, so that's per request, and it's going to be conditional on web application. So we're going to have a request scope bean, and what it's going to do is go ahead and create a Twitter template for us. And that's going to require an application ID and an application secret. So what we want to do is go ahead and create this. So if we go into our application properties, we're going to type in the property name here that it enables, so spring.social.twitter. And there you go, we can see the app ID and the app secret, so they're the two we need. So we're going to need to get an app ID and an app secret. And what that will do is automatically, just by specifying these two properties, Spring Boot will automatically configure us a Twitter template, and the scope is going to be based on the request. So the first thing I want to do is actually go out to the Twitter website. So what I've done is just previously, I've created a simple test Twitter account just to show you guys how you can do this. And what I want to do is go and locate to dev.twitter.com. And at the bottom of the page, there should be an applications page. So if you want to post programmatically, you need to create an application. So I'm going to manage my apps. And I don't have any apps. So I'm going to need to create one. And what you need to do is you need to agree to the cookie use, data transfer use, and you're going to have to agree to Twitter's policy to actually do this. So if you're going to be following this, make sure you read it. So I'm going to create an application. So I'm going to call this Twitter example client. And I'm going to give it the same description. And I don't have a website, so I'm going to give it an example one. So I'm going to call placeholder. We don't want to call back. Yes, I agree to terms. So you guys, you're going to have to go read this Twitter development agreement and make sure you agree to it. I have already read it in depth and I agree. So I'm going to click yes, create your Twitter application. So this will go ahead and actually create our application for us. Okay, so now we have a Twitter application. So first thing I want to do is, by the way, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete this account and delete everything straight away. And the app, as soon as I release the tutorial, in case you guys are going to try and take these. So first thing I want to do is go into manage keys and access tokens. And in here you can see a consumer key and a consumer secret. So in your application, as you can see here, this should never be human readable. So you want to encrypt that at rest, and then you only want to decrypt it when you're going to be using it. But in our instance, we need these. So what I'm going to do is copy the key and the API secret into our application. And what that's going to do is come into Twitter and use the Twitter template to create that. And what that's going to do is actually invoke the OAuth 2 service. So as you can see here, this Twitter template is only limited to perform operations requiring client authorization. So you can use it to search Twitter, but we can't post a status this way. So if you look in here, if you open Exchange Credentials, we're actually invoking the OAuth 2 template. So it's a Spring OAuth 2 template, and we follow that process. So what we want to do is close that and actually start creating our tweets and creating our search forms now. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and create a controller in Spring. So I'm going to call it Twitter controller. And I'm going to go ahead and just create a REST controller. Bear with me, guys. I like to do this from scratch when you guys are watching. What we're going to do is then auto-wire in Twitter. So as we know, Twitter has already been created. What we're going to do is auto-wire that into our class. And then we're going to create one service. That's going to be request mapping. And what we're going to do is take in the path variable. So I'm going to call this tag just a hashtag. And I'm going to produce JSON. What that's going to do is actually allow us to return produces media type dot application JSON. We're going to return a list of tweets. So I'm going to start get tweets. What I'm going to do here is take a path variable and going to be the hashtag. I'm going to return, so I'm going to search Twitter. So I can go get my Twitter object and I'm going to search operations. So if you actually inspect that API, there's lots of different kinds. There's block operations, there's list operations, search operations, timeline operations. So you've got all these different kinds of operations, and you can read the Spring reference guide to see what they do and what you can do with it. But the main point is we're now invoking the Twitter API via a very easy to use library. And what I'm going to do is search. So I'm going to search. I'm going to search for a hashtag, and I want the page size to be 20 maximum. So I'm going to go to hashtag and then 20, and that's going to be return. So what I'm going to do is bring in the media type. And it's capital T, silly me. So import Spring HTTP, search operations, get tweets. So now we have our service. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to minimize this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually go ahead and run this application. And then what I'm going to do is go to the URL. So if you go to Spring Twitter client, run as Spring Boot app. And we're going to load up our URL. So I'm going to bring in the web browser. I'm going to go to localhost 8080 service1 tweets, and then we have a hashtag. So I'm going to search it for a hashtag Manchester United, so manutd, and we'll see what we'll get back. So there, it's invoke Twitter. We have the data coming back in now, and we can see everyone's tweets about Manchester United. So that's a simple example how you can very easily integrate with Twitter, and you can call the API and make sure you use their usage policy. You know how many times you can call it, what you can do with the data when you get it back, and how that all works. Make sure you sort all that out with Twitter yourself, or you probably will get an IP ban. What else does Twitter offer? So I'm going to just maybe show you one more thing. So if I go to Twitter, let's use the timeline operations. So timeline operations dot, I'm going to get a user timeline. So what I'm going to do is actually get my own timeline. So if you go to Philip Start, that's my Twitter. If you want to follow me, that's cool. I'm going to delete this path variable. I don't need it anymore. And what I'm going to do is search for my timeline. So I'm not going to optimize this and change it just for the simple sake of this demo. So I'm going to run Spring Boot app. And now it has started. So I'm going to go to service version 1 tweets. And here you can see here's all my tweets. So I'm Phil Software and my followers and what I've been posting. So let's have a wee look here. Yeah, that's me. There's me posting my YouTube videos. There's my YouTube account. So I hope you guys have fun. I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial, and be sure to subscribe to me, follow me for new content, and I will see you next time.